So I am using iMovie on a MacBook laptop, but iMovie comes on most Macintosh, Mac OS, systems. So it will work on an iPad as well as an iPhone. Um, I though tend to think doing things on a laptop is much easier. But I will have you know, our marketing gal does a lot of iMovie things on one of the TAF iPads, and it works out just fine. But anywho, so right now, I kind of have just opened up iMovie, and you'll see I'm kind of on a tab that's called the Projects tab. And so this is kind of what I would say, like kind of your index of different videos you've been working on. There's also the media tab up here, which basically will let you go through all of the media you have previously imported into iMovie. Media, again, is any little video clips you've taken or photographs you've taken. It can even be like songs. Um, so all of that exists there, but I'm going to go back to the projects tab because I want to start a new video. And so I'll just click create new, and I'll want to create a new movie. Okay, so now we're in our new movie, project, and we're gonna need to get started. So the first thing you'll need to do is to import the video clips you're going to want to edit all together. Um, of course, you also want to add any photographs again or any audio. So I'm going to go to these. And you can see here I was working on a video, I think, for Bravo. So I have some interview clips with people as well as some photos that arts organizations have submitted. So we're just going to practice with these here today. Let's say you don't have anything in your iMovie library already imported. You can actually just add media um, by going up to File and then Import Media. So again, this is if you want to add some videos you just took and have taken off your phone and got on your laptop. And so then you would just navigate to wherever you had those saved on your laptop and then click import selected, and they would show up. So now you have all your stuff that you're going to be editing together, and you can just get started. I'll give you a quick tour of what this desktop looks like. So if you look at my little cursor, again, over here, up here is the kind of media library, so all the clips you're going to be working with. It also has other things you can add, which we'll go through what these are up here, because you can add, audio files, titles, which is just, the text, um, backgrounds, or transitions. And so today I'm going to, in addition to show you how to edit clips, we'll go through how to add titles and transitions to make a really nice looking video. If you look over here, then in the right kind of upper quadrant, you'll see there's also things you can kind of mess with. These are all things that pertain to specific clips you're working on. So I'll show you how to use them kind of one by one here in a second. So to start editing your video, you're going to want to find the video clip that you want first. It's usually just to say I wanted this interview with this woman here. I'm going to drag it. I just clicked it. See, it was selected in yellow, and I'm going to drag it down here to this thing called the timeline. So as you can see, now this whole clip is here. And you can actually use this little lever right here, I guess, or slider, I guess, to kind of zoom in and zoom out. What this is doing is, while it looks like the clip got longer and longer, it's actually zooming in. So you're seeing, smaller increments of time. I wouldn't say you're seeing the actual frames, but, you're getting closer and closer to each frame. And that will make it easier for editing. Of course, maybe you have a whole bunch of clips and you need to find one, then you can just zoom out and it makes it really small. So it's nice to kind of click and drag if you want to reorder stuff. But when you're kind of editing each individual clip, I recommend zooming, in. So to trim a clip down, again, that's to, take some of the beginning or the end off of a clip you have. you just simply go up to the top and you'll see these two arrows kind of pop up, and you'll click and hold down, and then you'll just trim it off. It's pretty easy, just click and drag. And so now my clip will start here where I wanted it to. Okay, so we're back to the beginning. So now you can see
2018 by one of our full-time.
I, clipped off the very beginning. Obviously, if I were doing an actual video, I probably wouldn't want it to start there, but I think you get the idea. So I trimmed a little off the beginning, and then say maybe I want to trim a little off the end because maybe the interviewer, oh, see here, I don't want it to say Tisha Lee, in the middle of her face. So in addition to trimming, you can also split clips. And this is how you would edit things that are in the middle of the clip. So trimming applies to the beginning and the end. And then splitting is what's going to help you take out things. So say I see right here is where this black Tisha Lee screen starts, and I don't want it in my video. All I got to do is kind of click. So my line has kind of selected that point in time on this timeline. And then I right click, and then I just say split clip. And so now you see it's split the clip at that point. And so then I can just trim it by again selecting it. Those two arrows pop up, and I just drag it to get rid of that part that I don't want. So now I have these two clips because I've edited out the middle because there was that black Tisha Lee, screen that happened to pop up, and I don't want that in my video. So now what I've been left with is this. And so there is kind of a weird jumpy part. And so I'm going to use something called a transition. Transitions are basically the same in PowerPoint if you've used PowerPoint before. It's what kind of makes the switch between the slides. It's exactly the same thing. So to do transitions, again, you go up to this top part on the left-hand side up here and you click transitions. And then you're just going to pick the one you want, and you can drag it in that space in between. This one's kind of weird, but you'll see what it does. So then now that the transition's there,
we will be able to continue.
It's made, kind of a way to break up the scene. And so that can, help you avoid any weird choppiness. You could use something like a cross blur, and that would make it like a smoother transition. Or maybe you want there to be kind of a dramatic shift. You can play with the type of transition to kind of really affect the tone and pacing of your video. So far we've covered how to trim the beginning and ends of clips, how to split a clip if you want to take out stuff that's in the middle, and how to add the transitions. Next, I'll show you how to add titles. So this person's name is Kelly Hampton, and she works for the YWCA. And so in this video, I want to be able for people to know that. So I'm going to use the titles function, which is again up here in this left upper quadrant. When you're looking at things like on the news, that title is called the standard lower thirds. And so iMovie has a couple different, styles you can use. I'm going to just pick this one because it has a nice kind of top and bottom, different formatting that I think will look nice. And so as you can see, all I did was select it and then drag it down here to where I want it to appear on the timeline. So if like maybe you didn't want it to appear at the very beginning, you could slide it a little more to the right, and then it will, appear there. To edit the text that shows up, you go up to the preview panel here, and you just type in what you want it to say. So this is Kelly Hampton. She works for the YWCA. There we go. So now that I've done that, you can go back to the beginning.
2018 by one of our full-time advocates, Rachel Reynolds.
You can see it then appear there. So again, if you want to, do an opening title, you can use that like standard title, expand title. You can play around with those to, kind of, again, add calls to action, just any way you want to have text overlaid your visuals in the video. To add images or any other media to your clip, you can go back to the media library and find the image you want. So maybe Kelly was talking about artwork that people at the Y made. So I'll find an image of the artwork I want to use and I'll put it kind of on the interview, maybe where she was talking, right? So maybe down here is where she started talking about the artwork I want to highlight. So again, to use the artwork, all I did was go up here and click, and then I dragged the image down to the timeline, and now it kind of is on top of the video. And so the viewer, again, in this preview panel, will no longer see Kelly's face talking. It will actually switch then to this cow artwork. And here, so I'll show you. So again, Kelly's talking,
now
and then
Rachel Price, and it started in the basement of.
So Kelly was talking, and then it panned over some artwork. So you have this image that you've imported into your video. To make it more dynamic, you can now use the tools up in the upper right quadrant that I hinted at earlier on. If you select any of your still images, you then can go up here and use the tools to edit them. The tool I'm going to be talking about most is the cropping tool. So if you hit the cropping, which is kind of looks like the photo cropping icon in a lot of programs, this brings up the image, and then we'll ask basically how do you want the image to appear or fill the space on the screen. In this case, you'll see Ken Burns is selected. Ken Burns, the documentary filmmaker, actually pioneered this kind of filmography, or videography, I should say, where you take a still image and kind of pan over it or zoom in and zoom out to help create some dynamism in the video. So this Ken Burns tool actually allows you to decide where it's going to start, like the camera would start, and where the camera would end to create some movement. So you'll see here, there's kind of a rectangle that I can actually kind of change the size of. I can actually change the position of, and this is just me clicking and moving it around. So using the Ken Burns tool, I'm going to have it actually start on the top of the hat, like zoomed in really close, and then it will actually zoom out as the clip plays. And so I'm going to do this by making sure my start rectangle is put up at the top of the hat and it's kind of small and close cropped in there. And then I have this end, the larger rectangle, and again I can play with the dimensions of it. I'm going to keep it further out. So now when I play the clip, you're going to be able to see it kind of zoom out on the photo.
Now Rachel Price, and it started in the basement of shelter. Rachel.
So again, I'm trying to illustrate what Kelly is saying with an image, but I don't want it to just be a still boring image. So I've used this cropping tool and use the little rectangles here to decide how the image then is going to fill the screen. So again, if I maybe have it start at the top of the cow and then pan down again.
Rachel Price.
See, now it's
and it
going
started
down.
In the basement of shelter.
I can play with it. And so again, especially if you're a visual artist, you can then highlight different aspects of your work by playing around with this Ken Burns effect and how it zooms in and pans across your artwork. In the cropping tool, there's also just kind of other options. You can just say, I want to fit the whole image to the screen, or I want to crop it to fill. Again, the fit will kind of squish the image onto the screen and have black bars, where the empty space is if it's a vertical image. Or if you use that crop to fill, it'll actually ask you, well, what part of the image do you want on the screen? And again, kind of like the Ken Burns tool, you can select that using this little scalable rectangle. So now you've added, kind of one still image. Maybe she keeps talking about artwork and you want to add another. So you'll then just select a new one, drag it on the timeline after it, go back up to the cropping options, and then you can, play with the Ken Burns effect again. So maybe, instead of going left to right, this image is going to go right to left, however you want that to be. Say you want the image to be on the screen for longer or less. That's really easy. All you do is you go to the edge of the clip, and if you want it shorter, then make it shorter on the timeline by going to the left. If you want it longer, go to the right, and it tells you how many seconds it's going to be on the screen. So by changing the length of time of the still image clip, you're also going to change the speed at which the Ken Burns effect kind of takes place. So if you make the clip longer, it's going to take longer to pan left to right. Whereas if you make it shorter, it's going to be pretty fast. So sometimes you also might want to play with the duration of the image to make sure, it doesn't feel too fast or too slow. Now that I've showed you how to add images to a video clip, I'm going to also show you how to do two more things. The first of which is how to just add audio to some images. So I'm going to take this stuff away really quick. And I'm going to now I'm doing, a highlight of an exhibition. So I'm going to take the images I want to be kind of in my animated slideshow, if you will. And so the Ken Burns effect, has been applied how I want it. But now I want to add the background music. So I'm just going to look up here then in my library, and I'm going to find the song that I had imported. And I'm going to just drag it down here below the images. And it actually then goes to the clips. So my audio is now in, but maybe I don't want it to be so loud at the very beginning. You can actually edit the volume and kind of the crescendo, decrescendo, using this kind of fade tool. So you see here, my cursor turns into the two small arrows, and it says fade audio in. So I just click that, and then I hold it, and then I go to the right and, say how many seconds I want. Because again, remember, we're looking at seconds, not minutes. So now when it starts up, it has, a less abrupt beginning. Another note about audio is, say you actually are recording maybe two different people and one person's a lot louder than the other. You might end up then with two clips where one person's really loud and then the rest of the video is really quiet. You can actually kind of equalize that by editing the audio clip. And again, you can edit this clip using these tools up here in the right upper quadrant. And so to edit the volume, you actually click the little speaker, and you can say lower volume of other clips. You can make this, 50% quieter, whatever you want, and you can kind of manage it that way. So again, this will help, especially like with abrupt transitions where maybe one person's talking a lot louder than others. So that's how you add audio. So the last thing I'm going to show you today, which you may need to do, it's not very common, but it's useful to know, is you can actually take audio off of a video. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to delete all this stuff, which again, you can delete things just by selecting them and clicking delete. And say I have a video that I just want the audio of, or maybe I want to delete some of the audio of the person speaking and substitute music. So perhaps maybe you have a bunch of kids playing and it's really loud and noisy, but you just want to have happy music instead. So this is what you would do. You would click the clip, make sure it's selected in yellow, and then you'd right click, and all you click is detach audio. So then again, that makes it separate the video, the visual, what you're seeing, from the audio. So then you get that green file, and then you can edit it just like I showed you using that sound tool. You can, try the reduce background noise function. Maybe if you're in a gallery and there's people talking and there's like a hum or something, iMovie can sometimes help with things like that. Okay, so lastly, once you're happy with how your video has turned out, you'll need to export it from iMovie. And so this is really simple. You just go up to File, and then you go to Share. And it's basically asking you with these options, what type of file do you want and how will it be compressed and what will the quality be of the end product. So I would always recommend going to File. And so you've asked it to export to an MP4, which is a really common type of video file. And so here's where you can name it. So I'm just going to call it my movie 4. You can actually work on the description if you want. You don't have to though. And then you'll want to pick the format. Make sure it's video and audio because you don't just want audio. You can change the resolution if you'd like, and while you can go up to a higher format, that I would recommend if you're doing anything for the web to make sure the file isn't too big, sticking at the 720p 60 for resolution. The quality, so you can play with this. So for instance, if you're just emailing something to a friend, you maybe don't need it to be the best or the highest. Again, that will just impact what the file size will be. And if you actually look over to the left underneath the little preview thumbnail, you actually can see that the video is 51 seconds long and the end file size is about 79.5 megabytes. And of course, that's an estimate. But basically, you'll see if I switch it, see how it made the size over 10 times bigger. And so again, if you have maybe constraints with how big of a file you can upload somewhere, you'll want to pay attention to what quality and what resolution you're using. So again, high resolution at 720p 60, that gives you a pretty good quality video for something like YouTube or your website. So then you just click next. And then it's double checking what you want to save it as on your actual computer. And so here's where you could, change wherever you want to save it to. And then you just click save. And so as iMovie's working, sometimes there's a lot of clips in there that it has to stitch together. It can take a long time. But up here in the upper right is actually a kind of a little timer that it will slowly fill up as it gets closer and closer to being done. So once it's done, you'll just go to wherever you saved it and you'll have an MP4 file that you can then upload and share, do whatever you need to with. So today I've showed you how to import files into iMovie. I've showed you how to trim the beginning and ends of clips. I've showed you how to split clips into multiple clips so you can then trim out sections you don't want. I've showed you how to use transitions, which go in between clips to help either add to the drama or make them smoother. I've showed you how to use the titles in order to add text or calls to action to your videos. I've also showed you how to use the cropping function, which will help you add movement to still images. And lastly, I showed you how to detach as well as add new audio tracks to your videos or still images, as well as edit the volume using the volume editor. I hope what you learned today will create more engaging content for your website or your social media channel. Thanks for listening, and let me know if you have any questions. You can email me at coo@tippecanoearts.org.